Eastern time. We're here every day. We're finding and attracting some of the most wonderful people with some of the greatest stories, experiences, and what's most important, we're catching everybody at a time when they're believing that giving is the best way to get when you give, and if and when or maybe never you receive, but knowing the giving itself was worth it. So that's our focus. I've got Kelly here. Everybody knows Kelly. We were just talking about how interesting this track we're on is, the cool people that show up here and contribute. And I've learned so many stories about so many families, about so many past that enriched me. And really, like me and Kelly were saying earlier, everything's relative. So until you compare it to something, do you know really more what it is? With that, I'll turn over to Kelly right after I welcome everybody to chat. I see we've got Brandy here already saying good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, one of our favorites. Hey, good morning, Dan and Kelly. Jason's here. Great to see you. I really, really am impressed with Jason. And if you ever want to know what he does and how he does it and what he might be able to do for you, I would think it's worth that time and energy. We have Chastity here. Chastity's a great gal. She knows Gretchen really well. So welcome, Chastity. Charles, we rise by lifting others. Well, just showing up lifted the whole boat. Christine's here. Good morning, peeps. Christine was great yesterday. We were just talking about her and, you know, how times when three people on the show adds a lot more diversity, contrast, complement, more energy. So we're trying to get to that point and really finding the right combinations of who really complements each other and actually, are aligned in some way. And what is cool yesterday, and this is all about learning, is how Christine and Roxanne became good friends through this LinkedIn Live, and how Kelly has gotten to know Ambimbola, and finding more and more friends who want to be friends, right? So with that, let me finish off with this. Ambimbola is here. Hi, everyone. It's almost like the beginning of class or something.
I know.
Hello, my friend. How are you? Jason's here. Christy's here. Okay, your turn.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So sorry, because I think Ambimbola, it's definitely not morning for you, and I just said good morning. In any event, just kind of to go off of what you were just saying, Don, and I think it's the poll today that's asking about, hey, would you be interested in doing a LinkedIn Live? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everyone do participate in the poll because we would be interested. And the 3-person format, the other thing we were talking about that we think is pretty cool is for people who are maybe like nervous about it, not really sure, because we all know I was nervous too, because I was like, it's live, it seems terrifying. But it is not. It's just a conversation with your friends, truly your friends. And so if you're interested, do that. And we can set you up with having another person on just as a support and trying it out. Like, it's so worth it. And everybody's got so many things to share. And yes, this is a business platform, but I am telling you, and I know I said this on other shows, people who are here, it's like they're pre-vetted. So whenever I see a message that comes in my inbox, hey, I saw you on a LinkedIn Live with Dawn and you guys were talking about XYZ, I'm ready to connect because clearly you've looked into something and you're not just sending me a bot message. For one. Two, I've had so many great Zoom calls with so many people, Omar, Paul, being on here with Charles and getting that connection. And then Jason, I mean, I do have to say, and I talked to Jason again yesterday, and, we do say give and things do come back. I believe that wholeheartedly. But Jason and I had a great conversation yesterday about other things, and he had introduced me to Cindy, who is now seriously my wonder twin. Adore her, and we're going to do some stuff together. So this is just kind of breaks the ice of starting a conversation and really connecting with the people, not just the profile and going, oh, it looks like they do super cool stuff, or I'm searching, I'm looking for a marketer. Well, you know this one because I've been here. So it's not a matter of, know the people behind the profile. And of course, I got to give a shout out to my girl, Christy, because, we met on LinkedIn 15 years ago. We will be doing a LinkedIn Live ourselves at a later date called The Awesome Journey, which I'm really excited about because we're all on this journey together. Why not make it awesome? What do you think, Don?
Oh, I think it's everything you're saying is a celebration of what we've been able to grow and evolve into as a team.
Yes.
Right? There wasn't any direction or any guidebook or anything, or even a goal. It was just like, hey, let's just get together and get to be together, at the level everybody is equal, right? At the thought, at the feeling, at the giving, because once you can shed the letters after your name, once you can forget about where you came from, good or bad, and you just meet everybody in the now, that's when you can really manifest everything you want, because now everybody's together and everybody's got a little piece that collectively could be a major piece for any one person.
That's right.
So if we ever said, hey, next week, let's get behind Jason and let's promote him, right? We've got a lot of collective strength. We shouldn't leave here and wait till tomorrow to learn more without doing something with what we learned today. And what I'm doing now is trying to open a road, be a pathfinder, meeting all the people, bringing in people, vetting people, filtering people, scheduling people. This is the best hour of my day. Speaking with you, everything else is tags and posts and newsletters and blah, blah, but that's what it takes, right? And now what I'm going to do, and that was the poll today, is do you want your own LinkedIn Live show? And after seeing how this has developed so fast for so many, in so many good ways, you should go from riding the train to running the train and being your train. And that's why I'm creating this like 8-week program that can duplicate everything I'm doing and do it with someone. Because a lot of times when you engage with someone, they're just giving you their stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And now you got to take their stuff. It's like buying an engine. Now you got to figure out how to take out the old one and put the new one in. Where if it's all based on what someone does every day in every way. And what I found is I can do everything I'm doing in less time than most people do what they're doing, because they're creating and thinking every day instead of replicating.
Yeah. I mean, and that is another thing. I just think in general on LinkedIn is that everybody's thinking like, I got to do this super profound post and spend so much time on it. And it's like, no, you don't. I mean, find a good message, a good template, and repurpose. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I see so much content on here that it's like, really? I mean, it's kind of astonishing at some of the content that people put out there. But, we've even talked about from here, which could probably be, I would love to have little snippets from some of these LinkedIn Lives to be able to use and post. So when guests are on, they can take a little snippet of themselves, whether it's promoting their business or whatever, because there's something that's a little bit different about having a conversation that's not scripted, as opposed to having a conversation. And I'm not saying there's not a time and place for produced content, because there is, but some of it can be very flat and just not, and feel too salesy. I mean, I think this way, and we've talked about this so many times, I just feel like this is such an untapped resource for people to use. And I've had a lot of people reaching out being like, I've seen you on there, like, God, there's got to be so much more that we could do. And I'm like, I know. It's like crazy how many people aren't utilizing it in some way. And, what you're talking about, fast tracking people, you know, Don's learned the ropes. Like he knows the ins and outs and like what's worked, what's not worked, because he's been doing it for, what, 7 months now, nonstop. So it can shortcut, because just getting set up, getting the third party platform and what you have to do, and the hiccups I'm sure that you had. I mean, how helpful would that be to help someone else get started? Because I have seen some people that do get on, and now granted, I did find it a little bit funny that they were like, hey, this is a LinkedIn Live, but I'm just trying to figure this thing out. And, making mistakes as they were going on and trying to figure out the chat and how to get the screen to work and what have you. But it's just like anything else. Like, why wouldn't I want to take advice from someone who's been doing it and knows all the ins and outs and can help me promote myself? I mean, and have it on a platform where, I mean, the amount of connections that are on here with everyone who comments, promotes, and shares. And I mean, that's something you don't get just on your own, going to LinkedIn and doing a daily post, right?
Absolutely. And here's what, there's so much that's deeper and richer once you allow yourself to move in those areas, is that it's access.
Mm-hmm.
When you're connected with someone and now you're connected to the access, I mean, look at all the wonderful people who are coming on. They're getting served up for everybody.
Yes.
If you were a major league player and someone just threw the ball up like a softball and all you had to do is touch it to get a home run, right? I mean, people like Charles, people like Jason, they're for real. They're just not a caricature or a routine, And Paul, once you got a board of directors, you never even have to do anything with until you need them.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, do business when you do business with people you trust, people you know.
Yeah.
And one thing about me, I'm here every day. I can't hide. If you want me, you know where I'm going to be. My whole goal is to duplicate and backfill everything I'm doing, because what's most important to me when I started this is whatever it was, the only thing it had to be is important. And if it was doing something important, everything else would either take care of itself or wouldn't show up. And whatever that turned out to be, that was cool, because it's the joy of the future, the anticipation. And then you add some beautiful people that you could have never met, would have never known you without something like this.
Oh, that's right. I mean, the odds, I was just talking last evening with Jason and Cindy, which was a fantastic call. But we were saying that, like, we never would have met, or the odds of us meeting on this, 900 million people platform. Granted, I know only like 10% are truly active, but the odds of me really connecting with them, possibly connecting, but really ever having a conversation or getting to know them in any way, likely not. And that goes for so many other people that are here. And it's just, it goes to the whole thing of, it's pre-vetted. Like, I know when I get a message from anyone from here, they're worthy of a call. It's not, you're bypassing all that, that fluff stuff you got to get through sometimes with people, or you don't get through it because I don't know about you, but I get sick of the same automated messages in my inbox from people. And it's like, you guys are all using the same, chat GPT messaging. and I ignore it, because it's just like, this isn't legit on any source. And there's so many of them. So it gets lost in the mix. Whereas I think with here, you're bypassing all of that and getting right to it. And I know already people are doing referrals to one another. Hey, I know somebody that needs this. You know what? I just so happen to know someone who does finances. Let me send you you got to check out Paul's profile and see what he's got going on. I can, recommend him. And that also feels good to know, like, gosh, I've got people here who would have sent people to me. Like, that feels so great. And that's just not something you can get on the surface part of LinkedIn, which is why I'll go back to what I just said earlier. This is just such an untapped resource to help people, not just help one another, support one another, encourage one another, learn from one another, but also to gain business at some point. I mean, that is why we're all here. but it's that whole giving and bypassing the, let's just meet people to create a transaction. We're going old school, which I still don't know why it's old school. It just should be normal to connect with human beings and, figure out, have the conversation, because you never know. I could look at someone's profile and think they need something based on what I could offer, marketing wise. But then I have a conversation. I'm like, holy moly, you actually, what you need is a full integrated marketing team. Or, wow, you're way beyond needing just social media. Whatever the situation, you learn more by having a conversation with people, but also not by trying to sell them anything. Understand what they do, what they need before you're already trying to, plug something in. And because that always feels so strange to me when people are like right out of the gate trying to sell you their thing. Well, you don't even know if I need your thing. So like, and this is just to me a way to, reinvent maybe your sales strategy or get support for that. Because even, in the service industry, and a lot of people started their own businesses in 2020, and they struggle because they're like, I don't like selling. And I'm like, you shouldn't be selling. Like, that's not the point. Figure out what pain point you solve for someone and address it that way. Get to understand them. Just have a conversation and forget about the transaction. Because I think that's where people get lost in trying to do those sorts of things. But I think too many people are too quick to want to get to the transaction and are bypassing the relationship altogether. What are your thoughts, Don?
Well, I think there's a lot to what you say because you're experiencing it, you're contributing to it, you're deeply involved in it, so you're knowledgeable about it, right? So what we're not talking about is a philosophy, it's a reality that's taking place. I think and I was mentioning it earlier, what goes on behind the scenes makes this show possible because of the curation. Right? Without curation, we would have everybody coming through here. But since before anybody could be a co-host, I have to at least talk to them probably for about an hour.
Yeah.
And also encourage them, are they ever interested in joining the group as an audience member or somebody else? Because if they're not, why take up that oxygen with a stranger when you got a family member who's got a voice, who's got a story? And I think everybody should be able to play. And I think our earlier conversation, I'm going to spend a lot of time acknowledging all the comments because we got a ton of them, is that when we have somebody who's new or a little intimidated, having that third person next to them is a great support vehicle. And, all we want someone to do is take another step they wouldn't have without our support. Whatever that step is, wherever that step leads. But with that, let me introduce, I'll start with Jason. Charles Caller. Hey, good morning, Charles. How's it going? And that's what's happening. We're starting to develop relationships slowly, seeing opportunities. But, to Kelly's earlier point, it's so cool when people you admire you as well. So you see people on LinkedIn or you see people on the show and you say, wow, they got an incredible history. They're into an amazing future and they're so positive and they think the same thing about you. That's what makes it wonderful, right? If everybody's just looking up at the stage at all the rock stars, thinking I'm different instead of I'm at the same level. Lillian's here. Thank you, Lillian. Lillian's an everydayer. Kim is here. Just started watching a few days ago. Is a continuous audience participant because honestly, if you're going to do LinkedIn, do it right. Do it with the people who are doing it right. Learn from the people here. So it's not just friendships. Reach out and say, hey, there's something I'd like to learn from you, and tell people what it is. I see you're into podcasts. I'm interested in podcasts. Can we talk? I think the differential between selling and promoting is when you really have the other person's best interest in mind.
Yes.
Right? And you never put that person at risk.
That's right.
And if you say it's never going to cost you nothing, you're not going to get hurt, I stand behind it. Christabella's here. I love your name.
I do too.
It's so cool. We've got Lillian, Kim Wheatley. Okay, you see, that's cool. Make friendships among us. I would love to see people say, because of this, just like Kelly said, I met these two incredible people. So glad you're here. Glad, happy. How many times do you hear that during the day? Ambabola, my friend. This is, like honestly a marketplace where everybody brings the best of themselves and has community there, just like a farmer's market. People aren't making millions of dollars, but they're sharing their stuff. They're with other people like them, and it's a nice afternoon. Christy Howard, good morning. Kim says, so looking forward to the live with Kelly and Christy.
Thanks, me too. It's going to be a blast. I mean, I have no doubt. I honestly, it's like Don sort of has created a monster. Like, I'm like, this should have been in my life a long time ago.
Well, I'm just happy to be here with you. And here's the other thing. What we're doing is just flexing LinkedIn Live muscles right now. We're seeing what it can do, how it can do it. Is proving to prove out in front of our eyes. Mm-hmm. Where showing is so much more credible than telling.
That's right.
Right? Just see it, feel it, talk to the people around it. We're not a conspiracy. We're not awful people hiding as good people for the next year. Hi, Lillian Howard. Hi, Charles Colwa. Hi, Christy. Hi, Jason. Well, one thing about Christine, she's very comprehensive, and covers all the bases. It's past 4 p.m. here. Well, knowledge has no time. What we talked about this week, there are no boundaries. Nothing our message has an issue with or anything has an issue with this message. If we're just kind, loving, caring, thoughtful, I don't think anybody would say, oh, got to be careful on that one.
Right, right.
But with such a rarity, go ahead, Kelly.
I mean, that was just funny because, yes, we're going to brainwash you with positivity. Like, what a horrible thing. But the whole thing just about, community. And for those of you maybe that are new and maybe haven't even heard, like, none of this has been scripted. Like, we don't go, what are we going to talk about today? There have been a few times it'll be like, hey, is there any topic that you have at top of mind? And that might start the conversation, but the conversation goes based off of the audience. And I'm serious. When I was on a call with Dawn and 2 days later, I was on a live. And then I've been on ever since. And the other thing I've noticed, and I was talking with Jason about this yesterday, is there's other shows that are on, and no offense to any of them, but I haven't found any that I'm like, either that I've dropped off early because I'm like, I'm just bored, or it's just not doing anything for me. And I'm like, I haven't come back to them. And the interesting thing is when you see someone come in here, like Kim is a great example. She came in and she's been here, I think, every day. She comments, participates, like thoughtful comments. And it's just like, God, that's so cool that people want to come back and do say like, oh, I miss it. When I'm not here, I miss it. Or when they're late, they're like, I apologize. I'm so sorry I'm late. Like they're apologizing to their community. And it's not a community that if you haven't been here before, that it's like, we're all in our, this is a clique now. You don't know what's happening. Anyone coming in at any time. And it's like, I love watching everyone on the sidelines here and chat, just saying hi to each other. It's like, that's so awesome, because that is all at the core. And why I've loved this so much is it is sharing business knowledge and connecting, deep connection with people instead of just, accept your connection button request on the back end. But it's community. Everybody wants some positivity in their life. The world is just not, outside of here. I don't turn on, Dawn, I know that you said you quit the news a while ago, but like everybody needs a little dose of positivity in their life. Hey, if it helps my business on top of it, and it does, because it goes to the basic of it's all about mindset. wow, I'm not the only one that's been struggling over the past few months to figure out how to dive back into LinkedIn because I need to be here now because I've been laid off. There's a lot of that going on. And this is such a great place to come for that. Hey, you don't know what to do with it? Gosh, we've got all sorts of people that can help you here. Christy can help you with your LinkedIn profile. You need help with a resume? She can probably hook you up with that too. Then that's just one example. But I think everybody's just got some great input here. But the biggest takeaway is just like, hey, we just want to lift everybody up for an hour during the day because sometimes the rest of the day doesn't feel so great. Or I just need that little extra boost this morning to get me going so I can get some things moving this morning. And because I usually after this, I'm so productive, it's ridiculous because I'm so pumped.
Yeah, well, I never stop. And I love every moment of it because once this is done, I'm doing my tagging, and in 2 hours, I'll do my newsletter. 12 hours after that, I do the pre-post. Then we do the LinkedIn Live. And then in the afternoon, I've got 2-3 conversations going on from people who have an interest in something. So I never stop. And I love being totally immersed in something, right? Where just I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
The rest of the world doesn't even show up half of the time. But here's what, and I learned so much from what other people say. And I think what's so important is necessity is the mother of invention. And the reason I say that is when I decided to go 7 days a week, I knew there wasn't enough me to go around for 7 days a week. And that's why I started with 8 or 9 minutes. And when I got tired of listening to myself, the program was over. Well, nobody else was really listening, so it was okay. So it's kind of like going into training. Now, what I see happening, and to this point, Kim says, do you feel that today's culture is promoting transactional relationships versus building relationships? I think the key word, for sure, the answer is yes to that, is relationships. And what I'm seeing about this is the way people used to relate to each other and develop relationships is broken, right? The free, open, comfortable, hang out for hours in public places is gone. And in a lot of cases, it meant pretty bad relationships anyways, right? But if all of a sudden someone says, like magic, you're going to have 20 new names, 20 new personalities and faces, and opportunities to talk to 20 people a week, and only it's one call a person, right? How much time could you fill up, not just with entertaining yourself or enjoying yourself, but learning? And here's where the next block is going to come from. It's going to come from collaboration. So in other words, how do you stack 3-4 talents into one package, right? And distribute that in a way that makes everybody focus on core competency, right? Instead of being the jack of all trades. Like me and Jason are talking like, hey, if someone brings in half, another brings in another half, one can package it as a whole, distribute the work to be done, like outsourcing while it's still inside, and do it project by project, event by event. You see, this allows everything to slow down and get back to the now. This is a live show. Why not have a live business? Why not have live relationships, right? As things change, you're right there live to be the change, to get the message out. And I think that's really what we're building here is a amplified reach, but more importantly, a relevant reach, because I get so many comments and all of them are quality. If I did a post like, hey, what's your favorite flower? And I got 1,000 comments, I would have people throwing tomatoes at me. I would have a mob, that was upset. And it's like, I don't want to be around that. So anyways, Kelle, what's your thoughts on all this?
Just to piggyback on what you said about Kim's question. I mean, I agree. I mean, it's not about building relationship anymore. And I think so many people have gotten sucked into, the devices, and the email is the answer. Like, pick up the phone. I mean, or get on a Zoom call. Like, I just don't understand why it's like, how hard is it to get on a phone call? And, I do appreciate when people send me something too. I'm like, hey, let's just do a quick 10-15 minute call. Um, just to get to know each other. What do you do? What are you struggling with? I mean, there are, scripts. I don't want to say scripts, but there are formats that you can use to help get into that call and build that relationship. I think there's Dennis Miller, if most of you know Story Brand at all. One of the things that he teaches about, as far as sales goes, is it's supposed to always be about, what problem are you solving? I mean, that's a marketing true 101 sort of thing. Like, let people know, what problem do you solve for the customer? Because that's what they care about. They don't care about how great your thing is. They want to know, like, how can it help me? But I love how he frames it, because he says when you're looking to work with a client or gain a customer, you're the guide to the client. The customer is the hero. And the example that he used is, because you're guiding them somewhere. You're solving a problem. And he used, for those of you who are familiar with the Karate Kid, like Mr. Miyagi is the guide to the hero, who is, young Daniel's son, guiding him through to find his solution to his problem. And it was interesting because he also explains the reason you don't want to be the hero during the sales process is simply because the hero truly is the one who is weak, meaning they need guidance. So being the guide that helps them along solving the problem. And I just thought that mindset and philosophy, my opinion, is so great. Instead of just being that focus of you're trying to tell the customer too much, I think, of why they need your thing and why you're so great at doing your thing, but they don't care about that. So I think there's certainly not just the human connection that is, broken, but also just the general sales process is just so transaction based in so many instances. I see it way too often. And it's just a shame, because it's like you're never going to sell by killing, pelting people with logic because that's not what sells. People make a transaction based on how they feel. Did you make me feel what I needed to feel in order to purchase? We all purchase everything as an emotional transaction. And it's understanding that part of it as well. What are your thoughts, Don?
Yeah, I think that sometimes semantics gets really in the way, and what people say as talking, selling, promoting, whatever their intention or whatever the reality of it is, people get qualified that way. And I think the reason why that is people do about anything, and a lot of times it's the wrong thing, because they're in a speed contest. If this doesn't work, throw this at the wall, and eventually something might stick. If one just says, I just need to get my messaging right so everybody else gets it right, and if you just say, like right now, I'm promoting build your own LinkedIn Live. That's what's playing on the marquee this week, and you can put whatever you want on your marquee, because that's what you're featuring. That's what you're promoting. And before that, and actually then on the second title is the LinkedIn Live Hour of Empower is always there. So we're actually promoting two things that kind of come together. And if everybody would just focus, what is the one thing, the one message that's most important for me to share right now? That's that's your strategy. And it's your strategy. In maybe 10 days, you say, well, I'm going to optimize my message, so keep it going, or, hey, I'm going to change. What I love about what we're able to do is that we're able to throw anything up and have fun with it.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to a board of directors or investors or anybody to say, hey, let's get 4 people on a show and see what happens. I love mixing it up because it's only a day. And, here's the other thing. If you're with people you really trust and care about, you can do about anything and you'll be okay.
Yes.
Right. And that when people know that, then it's again what we talked about yesterday, who is holding the key that can unlock your full potential that you've earned and you deserve to manifest.
Mhm.
Right. That's right. And what's stopping you? It's just, yeah, taking the time. Ambimbola is here. I'm enjoying this conversation, but I need to leave now. Return while you're still on. You know, it's great when you incorporate this and integrate this in your everyday life. Get back to it when it's comfortable. You know, it's like a sweater that always makes you feel good when you put it on. You know, is if you can come back to something and people, we have to practice putting the person back into being personable. Well, you know, the key is to have advantage, you need to provide advantage, you know, and if you can give people advantage and receive advantage, it's where you get to win, you know, and so many people are someone has to lose, or I got to get all I can. You know, it's like, how much did you make on the project? What does that have to do with it? It should be, what is the project and what value are you going to bring somebody with it? You know, and I think people don't understand that it's good for them to help others. And it's good practice for them. If you're not doing anything for yourself, you have all that time to do it for someone else. So if you say, I'm going to be lazy, not do anything, well, now you got an opportunity to share. Kim says, what's the most important message I have to share right now? Whatever it is, you know, if you were going to a help desk, right, going to return something, you would just bring the object you wanted returned and get the refund, right? If you went to the doctor, you would go there and tell somebody, here's my issue, and they know it, maybe they could help you. Well, when you have your own billboard, and what I learned yesterday, I was watching actually a LinkedIn YouTube, and it was all about using this new, you know, author, you know, that software stuff, MTG, whatever it is.
GPT.
Yeah, the whole key is relevance anyways. So what's your thoughts? I mean, we got so many directions and so many opportunities. It's just like a gold rush, and we're getting here early.
Well, I think part of this, the whole thing, and you sort of touched on it just now, is the part of community that's so beautiful is being supported and feeling safe. And I know I've said this a lot of times too. When people feel supported and safe, they achieve things they never thought they could because you feel safe. So you're more creative. You're not, the fear doesn't exist as much when you feel supported and created. It diminishes it, and you're more apt to take a risk. And it's like, why not take a risk? I mean, coming on here and not knowing what the heck was going to happen or what we were going to do was just sort of like, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? It bombs. I mean, and who cares? Like, that's not going to be on a marquee somewhere that says, oh, LinkedIn Live Kelle did on date, 257 stunk. Like, who cares? But we learn from our mistakes, and it's about not being afraid to give something, I think, new a try. Like, that to me is what this is all a reminder of. This is new. It's untapped. People haven't been doing it. Here's what we're learning as we're going. Here's what we're seeing evolve organically. Like, nothing is pushed, forced. It just happened. And it just shows that this is what people are craving, is human connection. And support and wanting community again. Like, we can't function without community. We're human beings. That's what we want and we crave. And I love that people are in the chat, or support one another. They're always checking in, like, Christine, how's school going? And yay, and supporting. I love that. And it's, everybody needs that. And it's coming here for an hour a day. The other part of it, the devices are down. I mean, even though we are on a LinkedIn Live, people have their head down in this world these days, and they're not even looking at each other anymore. So, I mean, which I could go down that deep rabbit hole and I will not, because we are getting a whole bunch of other chats. But I think that's, really the basis of all of this is just, hey, take a risk, give it a whirl. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work. And the best thing that happens is it does work and you'll learn a whole bunch of stuff on the way. That to me is a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you try?
Yeah, and what's curious, and you make so many wonderful points, is no one's ever had a bad time here. No one's bombed, because if you really get graceful and you bless everybody for their own existence, right? Their past, their family, their relationships, they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need the same. And once you can work on the other side, which is no judgment,
Yes.
right? Because this doesn't happen, what we're doing, if we had a lot of critics,
Mm-hmm.
or people say, hey, you're just weak, or, that would destroy somebody. That's where someone would bomb. But here's what I know to be true. Yourself, Christy, I can name all the names, would be so out of character to do something that would be a bomb for anybody, right? That someone would just say, I can't believe she just said that or did that, because that's not the person I know. So I'm sure that would never happen, because one thing I will say about trust, it's hard to build, but easy to lose,
Mm-hmm.
And once you build it, you don't want to do anything to lose it, because everything ripples, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why bringing your best person to the table, because in a way, this is an interview. When people say, I need a job, it's like, well, get in front of a lot of influential people who know a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
and get to know you. And then when they refer you, they know you. So just like you were saying with salespeople, it's the same thing with job people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's salespeople taking advantage of customers, knowing they're taking advantage, knowing the return on what they're receiving is not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where the whole comment of transactional comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Every day they got to hunt, to live, because they'll never build a relationship that will nourish them going forward. Same thing in a job situation. People are there who are valuable, who are worthwhile. And because the person hiring is not doing the right thing most of the time for the right reasons, that person doesn't get a fair shot.
Yep.
But that's why you don't want to go with the mob. You don't want to be one of 2,000 resumes that people get every day, because at that point it's a beauty contest. If there's thousands, it's going to be who had the nicest resume, who came in first as far as showed up, or whatever the criteria. What I'm saying is, people who are out of work, if I was advising them, I would say, come to this show, make yourself known,
Yes.
share what you have, and then tell people after you got a chance to know them and they got a chance to know you, I got an issue. Can someone help me? And that's not salesy unless it goes beyond that.
Right. I think, I love that. I know we've talked about this quite a bit, because there's, even more layoffs that are happening. And I'm like, man, people need to get creative. Because you're right. I know people are like, my God, I went to apply for this position that looked great, but there was 1,200 applicants. What are the odds that my resume is going to get seen? And you never know who's on the other side. And we've talked about this on other shows, because the system is broken. You send a resume, and when you're someone who is seasoned and you already have your resume professionally done, and then you submit it, and because it says upload your resume, and then they take you into their login, and you've got to re-enter all your information. And when you're someone who's been has been working for 25 years, that's a time-consuming process. So it's frustrating on the front end, but then on the back end, you never hear from anybody. You don't know, did they get my resume? Did they see it? Did they read it? What didn't they like about it? Why didn't I move in the process? Like there's no feedback even. And I know a lot of people have been very frustrated with that. Like, I never hear, or I get a recruiter that calls me and says, I have this great position that I think you'd be perfect for. And then they submit your stuff and you never hear back from them because they only contact you back if you're going to move forward, and it's because it's about a transaction for them too. But I'm like, come here. And you're right. Watch a few shows, get to know some people. And hey, maybe on an open mic day, we'd be like, hey, ask in advance if you want to, highlight that you're looking for a position, and let us know what you're looking for, what you're doing. Because this is old school, but I think it still does matter today too. It is who you know. And you never know who's going to be in the audience, or who I might know, because you're looking for a graphic design job. And I'm like, I just so happen to know somebody who's hiring. Let me take a look at your portfolio and connect you. I just think there's so many different ways nowadays with technology. I do have a love-hate relationship with it. But do something creative and try something new. Like, don't be afraid to do that. And I do think this platform and doing a live, and I think I've said this, I don't know if we've said this on camera or off camera, like if I was looking for a position, I'm like, this LinkedIn Live seems like a good way to leverage for, business development, or to do a live and pitch yourself, and tag some folks in your community that are around. I mean, what a cool way to do something different and just get attention more than anything, because you never know who's going to see it, right?
Yeah, and that's why I know kind of what I know by doing what I do, and I know what other people could benefit from if they just reorganized their time and had a strategy to everything, and an understanding of why you add this or you subtract that or you adjust this, and then coming back to original intention and goal.
Yeah.
Right. And that's so key. Paul, old school is new school. And I want to highlight Paul is Brian, who's going to be here Saturday with Charles. And Charles just got added last night to Saturday. And it's nice that and everybody's like in total like communication, as things move around. So maybe I'll contact Charles every 2-3 days, or vice versa. So there's always this movement of ideas and people and thoughts. And that's where I know how this is going to build into collaborations, into projects, into events. To your point, and I know this week we tried to do a couple like themes, like let's talk about learning yesterday. The day before was let's talk about this as a starter. And we also talked about, there's so many issues with HR that it could allow for a whole set of programming every day on its own.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right. So it's just to bring in HR seekers, providers, whatever it is, and now have a place where anybody who's going through this knows that, hey, at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever it is, Monday through Friday or whatever, there's a new speaker in this area, right? And that's where I see people taking their LinkedIn Live shows. It doesn't matter where you broadcast from. Your LinkedIn Live is always going to be your LinkedIn Live that you're on, and that's why we need to encourage people to hook up. So they're broadcasting on theirs, but that's kind of technical. But what I wanted to point out about Paul is he went on a referral run last week and referred like 5 or 6 people to me. And it just happened that Brian was one of them. And everybody I get referred, I offer to have a Zoom call with, just because someone referred them to me. Right. So I won't say, hey, I'll connect, and maybe if something comes up in the future, we'll talk. It's like, thank you, Paul. You always have to promote the person who's promoting you in front of the person that you're promoted to. When I find that people like to know what they're doing means something to somebody, that someone cared enough to say something. And that's where doing that commenting is so important. Don't ever take anybody for granted. Don't assume they know how you feel about them. What I do is sometimes naturally I have people who do 10 comments, but I try to cover that person once that day with a return, you know. I mean, I'll like the other ones, but that's key. There's responsibility. You know, it's like going camping and not cleaning up after yourself, you know, after you're done enjoying yourself for the next person, because that's what duplicates. People say, oh, this is how it works because they're doing it and it meant something to me. And what's good for you is good for people like you, right? What you want is what they want. And if you can't get it now, maybe you can give it now, right? It's like whoever is in need, you know, if somebody comes over and need a cup of sugar, you don't really say, you know, why would I give it to you? You know, you would just say, hey, why don't you take 2 cups if you want? Here we go with Linda coming here as a real person and wanting to help others know bumps in the road can be accomplished, and finding others wanting community and share. Coming from many walks of life and countries makes this beautiful for heart and soul. You know, and there's so many people like Linda, Dean, who have had so much experience, and not just in what they did, but in all their relationships.
Yeah.
You know, all the friends they got to know and be with, all the family that they have. And that's wisdom and insights that's invaluable, you know, and you can't measure that on dollars. You can't measure that in degrees, you know, but at the end of the day, some of your favorite people would have never measured too well on those things either.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
I think the other just, you know, awesome thing about this, just in general, is regardless of who's been on, or, you know, whether it's been on screen or chat, it's what we've found out on this whole, you know, journey thus far. It's regardless of where people come from in the world, because we have people from everywhere, which is so cool. Regardless of their own personal journeys that has led them here, it all just comes down to the bottom line of like, God, we're all just here for the same thing, which is community. It has nothing to do with what my title is, where I come from, you know, if I have a family, what my status is, socioeconomic status, none of it. I mean, because everybody is just here to support each other, and to create that, and maybe it just feels much more special because of the way the world, you know, outside of here feels, that it's just so special. And it's just, I think it's so great how it's come together, and that's what the base is. Like, how can we help you? Because we live in a world, unfortunately, that is, you know, it's about the selfie. What can I do for me? What's in it for me? And this is we. And I love it. And I'm so proud of it, and so proud to be a part of it, and knowing all of these people, and then making the connections and true relationships. I mean, when I was talking with Cindy and Jason last night, which Jason, God bless him, because Cindy and I had never talked before. We've only ever talked on LinkedIn, and in the chat. She comes to my shows. I've watched her podcast. So it's just even that support for one another. Like, there's an instant support, which is, it's just amazing, quite frankly. And I think I said this earlier, but without this platform, this LinkedIn Live, I would never have had that. I wouldn't have been on a Zoom call with Jason and Cindy last night, and I wouldn't have had that connection with her. And what she said, which I thought is so cool too, is she goes, we just connected on a human level. We didn't know anything really about each other. We just knew that Jason was a common thread. And we had this most amazing conversation, and you know, laughed. We were pretty hilarious. And I said humble last night, because I'm like, God, we were so funny, and we're humble. And now we're like the Wonder Twins, you know, and it's just and it started from here. And, you know, it's so great. And we're going to do some projects together. I mean, so there you go. It goes to that whole thing of give and you will get, but you get beyond what you could have ever imagined. Even though I knew that Jason and I and Cindy were, you know, instant friends, without a doubt, it's going to turn into something even bigger than I could have imagined. And that's even the better part. Like this whole arena also it's opening my eyes to other things that I didn't I don't want to say that I didn't believe possible, but that just that I didn't see. And it's opening the creativity. And I guess it goes back to me saying it's because I feel supported and safe. And man, I'm leaping into all these different directions and new things that it's so awesome. And you know, that's where I'm at. And I'm enjoying this ride and it's so fun. And I think someone said in the comments, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And it's like,
Mhm.
really, what is the worst thing that can happen? And even with anything, asking a question. I mean, I'll take this super basic. The worst thing that can happen is somebody will say no. And who cares? I mean, that really isn't a big deal. And it's not that painful. And, you know, I also try to remind everybody, you know, the worst thing we've already, good Lord, we've already survived 100% of the bad days we've had. And that's a pretty darn good track record. So why wouldn't you give something a try? If it flops, you'll learn something. Who cares? But this has been anything but that. And like you said earlier too, not one person has come on here that has bombed, even close to it. I think every single person, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I do think that they all left going like, "Wow, that was actually super cool," and it pumped me up in some way, and they feel good. And I just think it changes an attitude and mindset, and is so great.
Yeah, well, you know, I think you're hitting it, you know, spot on, because we're learning how to do better together, but we're also, to your point, opening our eyes. And here's what I was thinking while you were talking. So many of us had to go against the wind with everything we had to work with or had to, you know, had at our disposal, right?
Mhm.
And somehow we overcame things. We whatever, we dealt with it, and we're here, right? So you're out of the storm, and now maybe you're in a sunny place. Well, now look at it like now you got a tailwind that you never had. So now instead of being this strong, capable, ready to go person who can fight anything if given enough time and thought, is now getting lifted from behind,
Mhm.
and little things become huge opportunities. I mean,
Yeah.
some people have only seen the left and never seen the whole right. You know, there are people who've seen a lot of right, but at the end of the day, it's like this is the truest, most honest way of getting a return on your value.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean getting a job. It doesn't mean owning your business. It means collaborating in the moment with what you can bring and what it can do along with others. And that's practice,
Yeah.
right? So people gotta keep investing in themselves. At a certain point, they gotta trust themselves to trust themselves, right? And see something. And what is happening is everything Kelly's experiencing, I'm experiencing, will only expand. And what I think is now going to really be, I wouldn't say earth changing, but very dramatic, is people are going to realize they don't need one person, one relationship to satisfy everything, or two or three. They can have 18 different relationships with 18 different people who serve a different need
Mhm.
or something. So now no one, you know, will ever be without total support,
Mhm.
right? If you got 18 people behind you and one leaves or two leaves, you still got 16. And that's what you're building, is you're building a reserve where from the outside with you than just being on defense and offense by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's very freeing. And knowing that tomorrow Charles is going to say something, or Brian's going to say something, or Christy is going to say something, and that's going to make me think. And if you got this 7 days a week, and what I was saying about the mother, the necessity is the mother of invention, is by having so many shows, you have to have more people on the shows,
Mhm.
right? So it was more expansive just because of the nature of the project, let's say, where if you're having one show a month, it's going to be you. You've been waiting all month, you've been preparing, right? Or every week, maybe you'll bring a guest on. But it's like, hey, I don't want to do this by myself 7 days a week. Because it's not because I can't, I really don't want to, but it's because it doesn't work as well,
Mhm.
you know, without that guest, without that second guest. And sometimes, you know, when it's just like me and Kelly, it works great because we still haven't gotten all of the audience. Charles says, Ann Levy, agree. Dan's here. Dan's a regular every day. Nice guy. Got a lot going on. Got interesting uh, uh, experience and a great guy to get to know. Christy, anyway, want to hang out Friday with me?
Yes.
Yeah, Christy's here tomorrow. You know, she's always bringing some great value and insights to the party. Return on energy,
Oh, I
uh,
love
you know, is so important. So,
that. So true.
with that said, I mean, again, a great crowd, but you know, we couldn't do this without everybody who's involved. Dan says, I would say I'm more irregular. Yeah, well, I was going to let you say that, not me. But yeah, no, this is a fun group. It's a group that really shows up for each other and is open for more. You know, I've never heard from anybody saying, "Well, I got so much to do, I can't talk to you." You know, because what they're realizing is there's better things they could be doing once they see it and once they understand they could be there. You know, people aren't jealous if you give them what you got, you know, but if you show them what you got and show them they're not going to get it, it's going to be a hard crowd to be working with, you know. So I think by having this attitude, you know, and what Kelly's saying is I believe it's from the heart, you know, and it's genuine. And that's where you build the trust, right? It's not knowledge. Oh, we got a bunch late. Christy, yes, I will be here Friday. Great.
Yes.
Mike, awesome sense of humor, dude. Great. You know, I love awesome and stuff. Some people just think different, you know, and unless you want to be average or normal, whatever that is, and what you get from being that is what every average and normal person, let's say, gets.
Mhm.
In most cases, that shouldn't be enough, you know, because you are unique into yourself. You know, nobody knows you better than you. And by sharing you, you allow it to get the visibility and attention. The reason why people haven't got more, they haven't got more exposure to more people.
Mhm.
Right? And or they settled. And here, Paul, you make time for Don. Well, you know,
Yes.
I'm going to be so excited if I could turn the clock forward 6 months to see where some of you are, that what we're into. Because if you look back 3 months ago from where we came, and it was harder to get here 3 months ago than it is to go 3 months from where we are, because now we got a team that's really muscled up, you know, and it's only getting stronger and it's only getting bigger because as we all get stronger, it gets stronger. So, anyways, final words, Kelly.
Yes, just I mean, I love it here. Always makes me feel so great. And I guess the last thing is, you know, I love that this is a community of support and non-competition, which is beautiful. We all want everyone to do wonderful things in this world because we know we're all capable of wonderful things. And I love seeing them happen to other people. I love it happening to me. And it's so much thanks to you for starting this journey for so many of us. I mean, what a blessing, Don.
Well, blessings likewise, mutual, back and forth. And you know, it's nice is I do believe my whole heart, it's only going to get bigger, better. And we're going to see people who have reached levels of success like you thought that they may never have, or their time has kind of come and gone, you know, and now they find out, no, there is reinvention, there is redemption, you know, and that's so much fun when you know you're going to get there, not only because of your desire and the opportunity in front of you, but because of the people around you. And how much fun is there going to be when Jason hits a home run, right? Or Christy or who, I mean, that's where, you know, we're like popcorn, you
Yeah.
know, pretty soon people are going to start popping and it's just going to blow everything up. So with that said, on a high note, we'll see you in 23 hours. with Christy Howard. And who knows, maybe another person between now and then. So thank you very much. Have a lovely day, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye for now.